Slayers X Terminal Aftermath Vengeance of a Slayer is an old-school first-person shooter developed as an in-universe game within the Hypnospace Outlaw world. It comes out on June 1st, 2023 for the price of $16.99 on Steam and the Microsoft Store, but is also present on the Xbox Game Pass on day one. But before I begin this review, this key was obtained from the publisher, No More Robots, for review purposes. That won't change my opinion of the game in the end, but you should know that because of FTC guidelines, as well as the whole morals thing, you know? The basic story around the game is that you play as Zane, who is a member of a small but formidable group of X-Slayers. Think of them as the protectors of the world, but if they were run by a 13-year-old edgy kid. They fight a group called the Psycho Syndicate, whose goal is world domination? I think? Maybe just general chaos and evil? Nevertheless, the game opens with your base being attacked, your mentor dying, and you on a journey of revenge and or saving everyone from certain destruction. AKA almost every 90s action trope that you could possibly think of. This means blasting through a series of levels with an arsenal of weaponry, from a shotgun that uses glass shards, yes shards, as the ammo, to your typical tri-rocket launcher. Anyone who's played a boomer shooter in the last 10-20 years will be familiar with most of these weapons, your pistols, your chain gun, and the most creative it gets with the base weapon is probably the pseudo-catapult launcher. You do also have the power of the Hack Blood, which is gained from certain enemies and can power up your melee weapon to fire blasts or launch devastating beam attacks when you get the Hack Blood Talisman. Your job in each level is to get to the exit, usually killing everything around you, and literally that's it. Sure, once in a while you'll need to pick up a key card to make some progress, but don't expect any puzzles in Slayer X, because that's not really the focus. Sure, there are secrets to find, and you can see how many enemies you killed and secrets found at the end of each level, giving you a little bit of exploration and a little bit of reason to go back. But this is typical for the genre. Actually, this is mostly typical for the genre for an older style corridor shooter, with enemy AI being basic and easily exploitable. The fact is, they will run at you, they will get caught on walls, and they aren't exactly the smartest of the bunch. But the game tries to make up for it in numbers. I played on the hard difficulty, as there are 3 base difficulties, which I think the 4th unlocks after you beat the game, but now that I think about it, I'm really unsure if it just wasn't there at the start. The game starts off pretty easy, but as it goes on, it throws more and more and more at you and gets increasingly difficult, as you should expect. Now, of course, this leads to the question, is the game fun? And this is where I need to stop and actually take a second to frame this review, because it's somewhat important for your decision on whether to buy and play the game or not. See, what makes Slayers X so tricky to review is that it's a game designed to be an in-universe project from the world of Hypnospace Outlaw, a creation by the in-game character of Lane Zofton, which, by the way, Hypnospace Outlaw was a great game, and I have a review of it on the channel here. It's a game well worth your time. Nevertheless, you may be asking yourself, why does that make it tricky? A game's good or not, right? Well, the game is designed to be created by a young developer who's creating a game without a budget, expertise, or know-how of veterans of the industry, and it shows distinctly in the design of the game. In my opinion, there are purposeful choices made that on a surface level could be considered bad or lacking when it comes to a user's enjoyment or experience, especially in the modern day landscape, but matches perfectly in the characterization made within the lens of Lane Zofton. A great example of this is the penultimate level, which has you climbing this huge tower to get out of a hole. See, if I were to strictly judge this on just the level design and the experience, this level would go into the oh god why category. enemies have ridiculous upward angles you have to hit, combined with a lack of good hit scan ammo at times that makes it more difficult, and enemies that are around very distinct corners on this tower that will be able to hit you while you're aiming upward and moving slightly. You've got explosive enemies that you can get killed in by this tight tower very easily around a corner, and the platforming is almost designed for you to fail. I got to the point where I was pulling my hair out, and hell, I grew up on several of these types of games. In fact, I'm actually really impressed at how deceptive the combination of jumps were that made me think I needed to use sprint, but then I didn't, or what angle that I needed to take a jump at. In many games, this frustration would have felt unfair, cheap, and make me want to kick a Vlad. But when I take into account that the game was designed to be created by an edgy 13-year-old in his mother's basement, it's done extremely well from a storytelling perspective. This character would design the game to be incredibly frustrating, especially at the end. Only the most skilled and hardcore players in his eyes would be able to overcome it. And a lot of the core design problems, like the distribution of ammo in the later levels, makes a whole lot more sense when you put it into that context. He would put a shit ton of rockets in the last level, even if the chain gun equivalent is more useful on the final boss. I mean, who doesn't love more explosions? The thing is that the game is still built on an engine that's rather well done, and thus still feels good to play for the most part. Granted, it's been a while since I've played it, but there's a reminder of games like Quake when originally playing Slayers X. The ability to stop at a moment's notice and backtrack or strafe while attacking enemies feels nostalgic and yet still fun to play. Enemies feel aggressive enough to cause problems without being too overwhelming, and there is something to taking out a room full of enemies in a variety of ways, whether it be precision from your fast reflexes, or you pulling one enemy at a time thanks to the AI. Quick saves are a lifesaver for people who get frustrated, yet the checkpoints are usually at the point of punishing you for a mistake, yet not horribly long to redo sections of the game. But in that same breath, a lot of the actual elements of the shooter can be looked at as problems for a subset of players out there. There are points where you will get lost because the level design doesn't entirely flow well through the entire map. There are literal areas that seemingly lead to nowhere. Or maybe there's a secret, you just have to mash your face against the wall and hope to find it. And that can get you lost and frustrated, even if that was the purposeful design of Lane in this world. Even beyond that, I found myself unsure where to go next at times, because I missed that one hill that had a bunker on it that wasn't exactly easy to deduce that it existed at first. To truly enjoy everything that Slayers X has, in my opinion, you have to be able to make the connection to the game design itself to really appreciate the details within it. And if you don't, the game isn't going to stand out against the amount of quality boomer shooters out there right now. And I'm not talking about knowing the actual plot of Hypnospace Outlaw. Hell, I forgot a good amount of Zane Lofton before going into this review. But knowing how the game was designed really pushed some of my problems with the game and made them into strengths. Like, Zane is the kind of person where I'd leave the room if he was present in it. He likes to say that he slept with your mom and grandma. He likes poop jokes, and his voice makes me appreciate that I don't play Call of Duty multiplayer lobbies. And yet, he's perfect for the game that's being created here because, well, that's the game. It's created by this kid. What I really appreciated, however, was the playful spirit and creativity of the small fan project and passion projects that were all over the internet for the last 30 years that was definitely present within the game. I love the fact that you were able to cause destruction randomly throughout by taking out windows, and realizing that glass that would break from those windows could be used as ammo for your glass shotgun. That's clever, And I appreciated that. I appreciated that the game rewarded me when I took time to play the skee ball it implemented, giving me extra ammo as a reward, in addition to giving me an achievement when I took the time to sink all the holes of the mini golf course. That part in particular felt very Duke Nukem inspired. Granted, there's a lot of things that I still don't understand about the game. I still don't get the reference to the club here. However, it's probably clever, but I don't get it. That was a constant throughout the game in terms of coming across situations where I feel like I should have been in on the joke, and that maybe it was references to popular media or other games that I just didn't understand. I got some of them, but others I just didn't get, so I felt a little bit all over the place while playing this game. I'm also somewhat positive on the game's visual presentation, although there's definitely things that even I, understanding where the game was coming from, would like to have seen changed. It definitely borrows elements from games like Wolfenstein with the head health on the UI, and I do like the flair for the visual presentation, even in the lower poly count you are working with here. The glow of the hack blood energy does bring attention to things like your melee weapon, for example, and the pixel artwork on the 2D sprites in the 3D world are well done, even if you can't necessarily see them at angles at times. Hell, I like that the Windows icon for the running game is a picture of Zane himself. With that said, sometimes the game's draw distances or lighting was... well, I'm not saying they wouldn't have been of the era, but they were annoying in the modern day aspect, especially when getting lost in certain levels. It literally pissed me off. Granted, the one that really showed up was the extra level, so maybe that was purposeful? But some of the levels were incredibly dark considering, and honestly, I just wanted a little bit more bloom in the game. As for sound and voice, there's a mixture of good and okay here. Some weapons like the chain gun equivalent have a good rat-a-tat-tat when firing at enemies, but there are others like the explosive sludge launcher that feel like they should be more over the top with the kind of game that's being created here. The quality of the sound is good for the most part, but man, you really feel the 90s cheesiness with some of the voice work here, especially with the rats. Some people will love them, but man, I heard their voice and definitely didn't want to find their cheese for them. Take a listen and you'll hear what I'm talking about.
What?
Whoa, Zane. If you keep doing moves like that, I might let you go out with me.
Zane, your hack blood power is growing, but you are not quite ready to yield its full power yet.
What?
As for the music, it's a lot of metal riffs and a lot of action-packed music, and it's appropriate for the game, and to be honest, it fits the game well. I actually was hoping that the game would go to the route of him using his favorite band's music in the game, almost like a weird copyright thing, but it does the job of getting you pumped. Nevertheless, though, it also isn't necessarily something that I will keep listening to over time. Take a listen and hear what I'm talking about.
You think you know me, maybe feeling like you own me. I'm in this song, can't believe that you can break
rest of the game's performance, it's fine. It's FPS, you want 60 FPS or more. The game gets that. I didn't measure it or anything, but the game performed like how I would expect a boomer shooter to perform. As for bugs, well, there was one in particular that was entertaining to say the least. Specifically, some of the textures didn't load, and those walls also didn't load. In the middle of a level, they sort of just disappeared. I'm not sure exactly what happened. Reloading did actually fix it the second time around. It was a bit weird. I didn't have any other big problems other than that. There's also one thing I want to emphasize for those who have played Hypnospace Outlaw. Don't expect any huge revelations from this game. I understand that it's connected to the lore of Hypnospace Outlaw, and it is something that may be able to get people interested in that world. But if you're expecting big reveals about the actual world of Hypnospace Outlaw, or anything along that line, I don't think you're going to find it here. At least, I don't think so. The fact is, this game is full of secrets. There are things left and right, up and down, not just the secrets that you find in terms of the actual secrets that are calculated at the end of the level, but the actual information that you run across in the world. Some of it seems to be connected, maybe very, very briefly, but there's so much in there and so much that I might have missed that I can't say for sure, but what I found didn't really connect that much. In the end, this is the review that really takes advantage of my own review scoring system. If you don't know, I have a base score for a game, and then an enhancer system that takes more subjective elements of a game and tries to match the game to you. The thing is, when I look at Slayers X from a delivery standpoint, the game is fine for what it is on the boomer shooter side. I enjoyed my time with it. The shooting was fun, and I got a challenge out of it. And all the little things to look for did really help elevate the game for my own enjoyment. But here's the catch. There are so many good boomer shooters out there right now. From Dusk to HROT, the Fashion Police Squad, that all have some good unique elements that stand out more typically than what Slayers X has. So for a good part of the audience, Slayers X will be a fine game, but it comes in at a 78 out of 100, making it a niche buy. But here's the catch. For those who really understand the game development process, the design process, or even are nostalgic for certain elements of old game design, Slayers X will be a lot more to you, as you can see in the enhancer system here. For a certain subset of people, this game will really make them appreciate the time, the effort, and the magic that the game brings to the table. I myself scored in the must-buy category because of the enhancer system. But there's that other caveat. This game is also available on the Xbox Game Pass Day 1. Which, yeah, it's the perfect kind of game to be on there for you to experience yourself. I try not to cover Game Pass games on Day 1 in general, mostly because, well, you could just usually find out for yourself. But more and more I realize that time is of the essence when it comes to all the games to play out there, and I would recommend putting time into enjoying what Slayers X has to offer. Anyway, that's it for this review. If you like this video, well, hit that like button, and if you want to see more reviews like this, hit that subscribe button. I do take feedback very seriously, so leave it in the comments section below. And you can always join our Discord to learn a little bit more about the games I played or just discuss things in general. Also, the next video on this channel is the criticism carousel from March and April. Yes, I know, I said it would be the last video that would do, but I put deadlines first more than anything else. Slayers X came out today. I wanted that video done before anything else, so it just got pushed back. But it is the next video. The next review after that will probably be Greedventory. If you've been watching me over on Twitch, you know I've been having a wonderful time in that game, and I think it deserves a little bit more attention. Anyway, that's it for now, and as always, keep on gaming.